just filed a habeas corpus saying that he is being mistreated. Melly say they not taking care of me the way they supposed to take care of me. All right. He say, I should just pull it up for y'all. We can look at it together. Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up for y'all so we can look at it together. I always say I'm gonna do something one way, and then I get on here and I'm like, yeah, I want to do something different. Melly's case is crazy. I mean, his demeanor is a little psychopathic to me. He looks a little scary. He looks a little too scary to me. So, just recently, a habeas corpus was filed, and so I'm going to show you guys the habeas corpus, and we're going to talk about it. All right, so this was filed. All right, on behalf of Melly, right? So Melly is basically petitioning the court saying, look, my conditions in jail are bad and y'all need to release me like right now because this ain't right and you breaking the law and going against my constitutional rights. All right. And that's basically what this is, that Jamel Demons, who is Melly, should not be immediately released from custody. Oh, wait a minute. Let me back up. Okay, the petitioner Jamel Demons, buying through the undersigned counsel, petitions this court a writ of habeas corpus, asking the respondents to appear and show cause why he should not be immediately released from custody for egregious violations of the United States Constitution. All right. They claim that Melly seeks immediate release because he is being illegally detained under conditions that violate the 1st, 5th, 6th, 8th, and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution. All right. Melly is a Black male whose current detention conditions shock the conscious and could not even be imagined in this day and age, even in a third world country that has no guardrails protecting human decency and dignity. Now, just based off of that right there, I mean, that right there alone is definitely. Melly was alleged in the backseat per security camera and Colton was driving. Hold on, wait a minute. She stated Melly was in the backseat and was driving and got blood on a black shirt from spatter. I sped through it. What's up? Yeah, they gone. They're not staying here. Okay, wait a minute. She said Melly was alleged in the backseat per security cameras, and Colton was in the driver and got blood blown back to his t-shirt from the splatter. All right, so let me pull up what I read, just so you guys know that I did do research on it, and my sources could have been wrong, which is fine. We're okay with it. We're okay with it. Okay, you're right. I just said it wrong. You're right. My mistake. You're right. You were 100% right. I said it wrong. My bad, Cooper, but thank you for popping in. So let me retract that. Melly was in the Colson was the driver and Melly was in the backseat, y'all. So there's no confusion. I just said it wrong. I did read it right though, so I apologize for that. But regardless, at the end of the day, what is this? So I want to force close. His run out of. Hold on. You can no. Okay, I read it wrong. So my mistake, but Melly was in the back seat and Colton was in the front seat. Thanks, Cooper. All right, jumping back over to, let me put it in here. All right, there we go. All right, here we go. But we're past that piece of it. Where was I at? All right, so yeah, it's definitely giving Joy Fulton County vibes. Okay. Over 3 years, petitioner Jamel Demons has not been permitted to make a single phone call or have a single visit with his family or any member of the outside world, including not seeing or speaking with his own mother in over 3 years. Demons has and continues to be subjected to the type of debilitating isolation that renders his condition of incarceration cruel, unusual, and beyond belief in a civilized society governed by constitutional safeguards. He has also had restrictions placed by detention officials designed to impede his interactions with his attorneys and his ability to prepare for trial on capital murder charges. His cruel treatment by the Broward detention authorities warrants his immediate release from pretrial detention, since the detaining authorities have shown such callous disregard for human dignity, right to counsel. So not only are they saying that the man is in jail, y'all got him in isolation. He's not able to talk to anybody. He ain't talked to his mama. Y'all are also alleging, they are also alleging that y'all not letting him talk to his counsel. Like he can't talk to his attorneys. So I don't know what's going on with the justice system, but it's just clear and apparent that it doesn't matter, like, if you are innocent, if you are guilty. Our justice system in America is just crazy. Regardless of whatever you are accused of doing, guilty or not, you should be able to be in jail and be treated civilly. That's how I know I'm going into constitutional law, because it irritates me, like, time and time again. Like, you think that you're going to come across something and everybody's going to be treated right, and then boom, they're not. But the background information that they provide in here is that he was arrested on February 13th of 2019, has been continuously in continuous custody since that date. He proceeded to jury trial, but the judge declared a mistrial in July 21st, 2023, when the jury was unable to convict him. In October of 23, the Broward Circuit Court Judge John Murphy granted the petitioner's motion to disqualify the state prosecutor. In the motion, contending the state attorney withheld evidence. A new set of prosecutors have come on and have done everything in their power to delay the trial from commencing. The case is currently stayed pending a ruling on appeal taken by the state attorney. Meanwhile, the plaintiff, who remains in custody since February 2019, is continuously abused and denied bond. All right, the petitioner has not been permitted phone or in person or any type of visitation with his family, including his mother, for over 3 years. All right. In addition, the respondents have placed unreasonable restrictions and interfered with the ability of his attorneys to interact with him. This has included forcing his attorneys to wait for hours to see him, not letting them see him at all, and forcing them to meet with him in conditions that interfere with and impede the privacy and privileged nature of his communications with his lawyers. In or around late April of 2022, inmate Jamal Myers filed a grievance report in retaliation of the plaintiff's refusal to purchase him food from commissary. All right, inmate Myers filed a grievance report against not only the plaintiff, but another inmate. Inmate Myers alleged in part that Mr. Demons was planning an escape by having his attorney bring in 2 handcuff keys to aid in his escape. Mr. Demons employs multiple criminal and civil attorneys. In response, correction personnel conducted a shakedown into plaintiff's cell and the other inmate cell. In accordance with certain supplemental investigation reports, the shakedown of plaintiff's cell unearthed commissary and excessive jail issued clothes, which were confiscated and disposed of as operational orders of the jail. I mean, come on now. Come on. However, the other inmate on the dorm was found in possession of shanks, prescription drugs, and other contraband. The inmate was subsequently charged for his possession of contraband. Plaintiff was found to have committed no wrongdoing in the investigation, closed as the plaintiff on April 11th. So y'all accused Melly of having how much stuff? Y'all said the man was trying to plan his escape. What did his cell? And he got a bunch of clothes. Went in his cell and got a bunch of clothes. What the hell? What the hell? All right. Despite doing no wrong, the plaintiff was removed from the current dorm into solitary confinement, and all phone communications with the outside world ceased. Shortly thereafter, two of the plaintiff's defense counsel attempted to visit him and were not allowed entry into jail facilities. The facility refused to provide any reason as to the denial. And I mean, that is definitely against the law. The following day, attorney Stuart Alderson made an ordinance motion regarding the jail's interference with plaintiff's right to counsel. The honorable judge summoned the Broward Sheriff's Office attorney Christian Salbas. I don't know, y'all. My vernacular a little off. All right. Anyway, the sheriff's office attorney defended the actions of the facility, stating that there was an open investigation against Mr. Demons, and further that he was a threat to the security of the jail because he was alleged by attorney of the sheriff's office to have been found with the shank in his dorm. So now they're saying that even after they conducted his investigation, and when they didn't find nothing, now all of a sudden they got a shank. Attorney Alderson inquired if any of Mr. Demons' defense teams were at the time or ever under investigation, and he said no. And then they instructed the jail that they could not restrict basically the attorneys from coming in. All right. As a result, the plaintiff's visitation took place in a visitation booth location downstairs in the bond room. All right. The visitation booth did not accommodate Mr. Demons as his defense team in one sitting. Moreover, it was impossible to review any documentation with him due to the plexiglass dividers. So not enough room to sit, and they can't physically give him any papers to look at. Not only was the visitation room not large enough to accommodate the attorneys, but also anyone standing outside of the room could hear everything that was said in the room, violating the defendant's right to private and privileged communications. Come on now. In September 7, 2022, Raven Liberty filed a motion to remove visitation, communication, or interaction restrictions. Prior to the hearing on the motion, attorney Raven contacted Christian, who's the attorney, in an effort to reach a resolution without a hearing. Instead, Liberty was met with unhinged screaming from the sheriff's office attorney, questioning her about, what do you talk about? Why do you spend so much time with him? Why is that your business? Like, why is that your business? They're preparing for trial, dummy. Christian ended the conversation telling Raven Liberty that if she went forward with the hearing, he would, quote unquote, embarrass her. It is important to note that the plaintiff's defense team was not in possession of the incident report, so the defense team and court all rely on basically the sheriff's office attorney proffers to the court that have been determined to be untruthful, which was very hard to read because it doesn't flow right. All right, despite the believable threat of character assassination, Raven Liberty proceeded to proceeded to hearing on the motion. Christian ranted and raved about unverified allegations and the behavior of the plaintiff. Christian attempts to not only embarrass Attorney Raven, he failed. Christian was instructed to accommodate visitation between Melly and his attorneys, and that was free of third parties being able to listen. So basically, they're giving him a hard ass time. All right. On September 29th, Raven Liberty was contacted by a reporter for an online media outlet and informed that unknown member of the sheriff's office contacted them and led them to believe she was the attorney that inmate Myers was speaking about in the unfounded grievances. It is a lot. As a result of the accusations, the sheriff's office story ran for weeks about the alleged nefarious escape plan between Raven Liberty and the plaintiff. The escape plan created by the sheriff's office was not the worst of it. On December 1st of 2022, under the charge of Captain Hubert, plaintiff without cause was moved to a unit inside the jail that is still meant to accommodate 24 inmates. Plaintiff was the only housed in the vacant unit, no privileges, no TVs, no access to newspapers. Can y'all imagine? Like, could y'all imagine? Oh my God, like, not so you in jail and you by yourself? Like you in there by yourself with nothing and nobody. Oh, okay, let me keep going. He couldn't even read the newspaper. Like, oh my God. All right. When the plaintiff was allowed this hour out of the cell, all other inmates had to go back inside of their cells. Specifically during December 2022, Lieutenant Jean Baptiste, along with Sergeant Anthony Kidd, threatened the plaintiff if he told his attorneys about his treatment, they would hide him away from the world. Plaintiff has not had phone privileges since May of 2022. The plaintiff has not had private visitation with his defense team since March of 2022. As recently, without reason, plaintiff was removed from the Paul Rain Detention Center and housed on a floor with no one else. His door has been removed from the cell, preventing any privacy. And he had a member of the emergency repose team shadowing him 24 hours a day. They were instructed not to speak with him. The plaintiff went without any human contact for several months. Again, the sheriff's office moved him. All right. Florida Statute 902.24 states a person arrested shall be allowed to consult with any attorney entitled to practice in the state alone and in private and at the place of custody as often and for such periods of time as is reasonable. The ongoing denial of Mr. Denman's access to his attorney is not only preventing Mr. Denman's attorneys from properly preparing for the defense, but is in violation of not only his Sixth Amendment right, but Florida law as well. All right. In order to punish and isolate Denman, the respondents have isolated him and not permitted a single phone call or visit from his family in over 3 years. This isolation has inflicted enormous emotional impact on him and is designed to deteriorate his mental health and his ability to prepare for trial that is now scheduled in September of 2025. These restrictions are not for security reasons and bear no rational relationship to any legitimate security interest. The respondents monitor the custody of thousands of inmates and have never imposed such restrictions. No non-Black inmates currently have any such punitive restrictions. Like, can y'all imagine? Like, that's crazy. Hold on. That's crazy. They basically just locked them up and said, we're gonna keep moving you around. We're gonna keep you by yourself. We're gonna make sure that nobody is talking to you. You're not talking to nobody. Like, you just with yourself for months. Like, how is he going to be fit for trial? Like he can't be fit for trial on any day. He can't. There's no way in hell he's gonna be fit for trial. And I'm saying that trial is still a year away. Like he's gonna need a lot more than a year to recover. He's gonna need a lot more than a year to recover. All right. Sorry, I had to go click something. All right, so let's go. So grounds for the petition. Ground one, the respondent has illegally and improperly violated petitioner's constitutional right, guaranteed right to counsel and his ability to prepare for trial. These actions have been done with no due process and bearing no relation or relationship to any legitimate state interest. Thus, he's been illegally detained in violation of the Constitution of the United States. Grounds two, the respondent is being illegally detained under conditions that are cruel and unusual and that not only bear no rational relationship to any legitimate state interest, but violates the petitioner's right to due process and equal protection. On September 7, 2022, and other dates, petitioner has continuously sought relief in the state court, which relief has been useless. Bringing this constitutional deprivations to the attention of the state court and state authorities has not provided any relief. All right, so this is like they're basically going through citing a bunch of case law right here. Yeah. And so basically they say, let him go. They say, let him out of here. All right, let's see what y'all talk about in the comments. Let's see what y'all talking about in the comments. All right, the guards are not even allowed to converse with him. Allegedly, this is humane. This is inhumane, right? What is his lawyer doing to help him? I mean, they following the motions. How in the hell would the lawyer get a damn key? Inquiring minds. Because now you want a lawyer to sneak him in here. You want a lawyer to sneak him in a key so that he can release himself. Where the hell he gonna go? He by himself. Like, if he moves, everybody know that he's moving because nobody else is around him. So how in the hell, child? Make sure I hit the like button. He would never be the same mentally. I agree with that. I agree with that, Hershey. In my opinion, they're trying to make him change his plea using psychological abuse. This world has gone crazy. I agree with that too. I'd be suing for money too. Yep. So when is the decision being made? From my understanding, I think they have like a week to respond to this. I think they have a week to respond to this, but I'll stay on the lookout, Joy, for additional documentations because they're going to have to respond. They're definitely going to have to respond. Why does the trial take so long to come back? It just ended in July 23. And then they keep going back and they keep having issues. Like I read something too, like they were beefing over motions and dates and when they were going to hear the motions. I'm like, child, this is crazy. This is crazy. All right. So my people said that they wanted to watch it. So hold on. Here we go, people. The audio sucks, just so you know. Yeah, no, we're going to turn it up a little bit.
which they may explain to you the issues in the case and summarize the facts. Case and summarize the facts that they expect the evidence will show. The statements that the attorneys now make and the arguments that they later make are not to be considered by you as either evidence in the case or as your instructions in the law. Nevertheless, these statements are intended to help you properly understand the issues, the evidence, and the applicable law, so you should give them your close attention. Counsel?
Thank you, Honor. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On October 26th of 2018, this defendant shot and killed two of his friends. He killed Christopher Thomas and Anthony Williams. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to set out the story and how this unfolded and lay out what I expect the evidence will show during the course of this trial. First thing you're going to hear is that at 4:35 a.m. on October 26th of 2018, Cortland Henry, a co-defendant, shows up at Memorial Miramar Hospital. In his car, he has two dead bodies. In the front passenger seat is Anthony Williams. In the rear passenger seat is Christopher Thomas. They are dead, they are riddled with bullets, and the car is full of blood. Christopher Thomas is sitting in the rear. There is multiple defects to his body. Anthony Williams, who is sitting in the front, has two major injuries. Officer Jessica Anagor is working a detail at the hospital. Cortland Henry runs in, starts telling a story about a drive-by, quote unquote drive-by. Cortland Henry, and you're going to learn a lot about Miramar geography during the course of this trial, tells a story that he and his buddies, just the two that are in the car, were at a music studio here in downtown Fort Lauderdale at 805 Northeast 4th Avenue. He's going to tell law enforcement, and you're going to hear this statement, you're going to hear the actual audio of him telling law enforcement, we were at the recording studio, we drove home, because they lived out in West Miramar. You're going to hear Cortland say that they come across in the path of travel, that they're getting off the highway on I-75 southbound to go west on Miramar Parkway. And you're going to hear that on Miramar Parkway, sometime between 160th, which is also commonly referred to as Dykes Road, and 172nd, Cortland Henry says they were shot at. That he ducked down, and you'll see him doing that in the video, and that he didn't see any car, he didn't see any people, he has no information, and that he quickly went to the nearest hospital. So you're going to learn that when you go on Miramar Parkway, and you take that right at 172, Memorial Miramar is just about 1 mile north. So the distance between most major intersections in Broward County is 1 mile. So you're going to learn that from 160th to 172nd, 1 mile. From 172nd to the next major intersection on Miramar Parkway, 184th, 1 mile. So you're going to hear and find that Mr. Henry's statement that the car is traveling westbound on Memorial Parkway, then goes north on 172nd and shows up at the hospital for the drive-by is completely and utterly false. How can I tell you that, ladies and gentlemen? Well, the detectives from Miramar at this point shut down the entire length of Miramar Parkway from 160th to 172nd. And they sit and they walk side by side for an hour, that mile-long stretch, looking for evidence of this drive-by. Because evidence is the remnants a crime leaves behind. And in this case, the lack of evidence is very important. There is a lack of any evidence whatsoever to support that a drive-by happened on Miramar Parkway. What would they look for? Shell casings, glass fragments, projectiles, tire marks. You're going to hear that there is none of that found whatsoever. So then they said, well, maybe we have the time frame wrong. Maybe we have the location wrong. So they walk an additional mile from 172 to 184th. Still nothing. No broken glass, no projectiles, no fire casings. Detectives know they have a Jeep that they are looking at the Memorial Miramar Hospital that has 16 easily identifiable bullet defects, that has a broken out rear view window and 2 broken side windows on the passenger side. Things aren't adding up. So detectives work backwards. They are then able to determine that 805 Northeast 4th address is a recording studio, and that the recording studio is equipped with cameras. And ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see footage from both inside and outside of that recording studio. You're going to learn that on the morning of the 26th at approximately 1 p.m., detectives went out to the recording studio to try and see if somebody had followed the victims, to find out how they knew where they were going to be to set up this drive-by. In the video, that is the first time detectives learned that there was actually 4 people in that gray Jeep, and that the defendant, Jamel Demons, is in the rear driver's side seat. So let me set the scene for you at the recording studio, because there's actually 8 young men there. You're going to hear they arrived at the recording studio, not much was getting done. They were tired. They left at 3:19, and they got into 2 vehicles. So first vehicle is a red Mitsubishi SUV. In that red Mitsubishi SUV, 4 individuals get into it. Travion Glass, Dontavius Withers, Jacoby Mills, and Adrian Davis. They are in the red Mitsubishi. In the gray Jeep, you have the driver, Cortland Henry, rear driver's side passenger, Jamel Demons, Anthony Williams in the front seat, and Cortland Henry, again, the driver, Christopher Thomas, in the rear. What you will find and what you will hear, ladies and gentlemen, is that this gray Jeep leaves the recording studio, goes over to I-95, takes I-95 south to 595, 595 across to I-75 south, I-75 south to Miramar Parkway. You're going to see traffic cameras from the Department of Transportation that show the cars going across 595, one after the other. In those videos, you're not going to see them stop. And it's just a small portion of which is covered by cameras on that. But then what you're going to see is the cell phone evidence. The digital leash. The item that is carried around in everyone's pocket, in everyone's car, used on a daily basis. Because you're going to see, as Jamel Demons leaves that recording studio, he's got his phone in his hand, and he's playing on his phone. You're going to see on that phone information that Anthony Williams had his phone with him. And the interesting fact that's important to keep in mind is Anthony Williams, the deceased in the front passenger seat, and Jamel Demons, who is the shooter, in the rear driver's side passenger seat, have the exact same make and model of cell phone. Not only do they have the same make and model of cell phone, They are on the exact same cell phone plan. They're using the same service, the same cell towers, everything like that. So you can compare the information from those two cell phones and see how they track together. Christopher Thomas, who's the deceased in the rear passenger seat, he had an iPhone as well, and he was on the Sprint service at the time. In the other car, that red Mitsubishi, Dontavius Withers also had a Sprint service cell phone. So ladies and gentlemen, you have individuals in two cars and all of the cell phone tracks together, going across 595, going until they get to Miramar Parkway and 184th. At 184th, the red Mitsubishi goes south, and you will then see it at 3:50 a.m. going through the guard gate at Sunset Lakes. That was the gated community in which the individuals were all living at the time of this homicide in October of 2018. On the Sunset Lakes guard video, the red Mitsubishi goes through, the gray Jeep doesn't. The gray Jeep instead goes north and then proceeds to go to the actual scene of the homicides. The gray Jeep goes north on 184th up to Pines Boulevard. From Pines Boulevard, it travels west all the way to the edge of the Everglades, where it is desolate, where it is dark, where there are no witnesses. The gray Jeep goes down south on US 27 and turns left on Pembroke Road. You're going to learn that Pembroke Road does not connect through. That right there, Pembroke Road dead ends at a trash facility. That at that recycling facility, you're not going to see people. You're not going to see activity. There's no street lights. And at 4:02 a.m., Jamel Demmons exits that vehicle and stages that drive-by. Because ladies and gentlemen, remember, at this time, Miramar is going and working backwards. They're looking for communication to figure out how and why and how the location of this Jeep was known, why they would be targeted. At that point, there is no communication. You're not going to see any sort of phone calls, any sort of text messages going out, setting up any sort of meeting at the edge of the Everglades at 4 in the morning. What you are going to find is that after the surveillance footage is brought up, some of these other individuals say, oh no, we stopped. We stopped the car and Mr. Demmons on the side of the highway got out of the gray Jeep and got into the red Mitsubishi. But ladies and gentlemen, it's important to know and look at the details, because the details don't match up. One person says, oh, it's at this location. One person says it's over here on the side of the road. Look at what the physical evidence shows, and that's what I would suggest to you as the most reliable things. So on the physical evidence, the Jeep is towed to the Miramar substation, and a search warrant is executed on it. And at that point, officers, crime scene technicians, and investigators start going through the contents of the Jeep. And all of the ballistic from the drive-by are all coming from the passenger side in towards the driver's side. And then from the rear of the vehicle, forward towards the front. The medical examiner's office is also conducting an investigation. You're going to hear testimony about the autopsies that were conducted on Anthony Williams and Christopher Thomas. And this is when the suspicion, the investigation takes a turn. Because at that point, the fatal wounds for Christopher Thomas and Anthony Williams are coming from inside the vehicle, from the rear driver's side passenger going out towards the passenger side. The other interesting thing the medical examiner's office is going to tell you is that when the drive-by was staged at 4:02 a.m., the victims were already dead. The medical examiner will be able to testify and tell you that the fatal shots to Anthony Williams, to his head, that enters in the back of his head and exits at the top, blowing out the front passenger window, was fatal. And that the additional wounds that are consistent with the trajectories going through the vehicle, he's already dead. There is a post-mortem inflicted gunshot wounds. The same for Christopher Thomas. You will hear from the medical examiner's office, Dr. McDougall and Dr. Souter, who conducted the autopsies, that Christopher Thomas was shot in his left cheek. That was the fatal shot for him. You're also going to hear about stippling. Stippling is unburnt gunpowder that's ejected from the front of a firearm when a bullet is fired. The best way to describe that and make it easy to understand, you have a handful of sand, soot, and a golf ball. You throw it, the golf ball is going to go the furthest because it has the most weight, the most mass. The sand weighs a little bit more than the soot, so it's going to go a little bit further, but not as far as the golf ball. The ash, the soot, which has almost no weight, no mass, therefore it can't have any energy put into it, falls very quickly. So that is the same principle that comes to gunshot residue and the powder tattooing that you're going to hear about, the stippling. The bullet travels the furthest. The gunshot residue, the powder tattooing, the stippling, creates a pattern. And from that pattern, the medical examiner's office can give an approximate distance. Why can they not give an exact one? Because their firearm in this case was never recovered. Law enforcement made diligent efforts to go and dive multiple canals, search multiple areas, apartments, storage units. They were never able to find the firearm. So without the actual firearm that was used in this case, you can't accurately and reliably recreate a distance determination. Common sense, ladies and gentlemen, the things that you learned in elementary school science about conducting science experiments, they apply just as much now as they did then. You have to minimize the number of variables. That's the only way to get an accurate experiment. So if you don't know the type of gun, you can't minimize the variables to get that distance determination. So what you're also going to hear is while law enforcement is going through that Jeep, they find one spent shell casing for a .40 caliber firearm. Why is that important? That shows a gun was fired inside of that car. You're going to hear that at once the location of US 27 and Pembroke Road.
When you give to St. Louis Children's, you empower stories of discovery, community, and
was discovered. Law enforcement goes out to that area as well. And there they locate an additional 8 shell casings, .40 caliber. But the interesting thing about that is that doesn't happen on October 26th of 2018. This happens on November 21st, almost a month later. Because that's when law enforcement gets the reliable cell phone tracking data that they use to determine that's the area that they need to be searching. Because at that location is where the cell phones of Christopher Thomas, Anthony Williams, and Jamel Demmons all line up at 4:02 a.m. That point, afterwards, Mr. Demmons' phone tracks with the 2 victims until about 4:20. So 15 minutes before Portland Henry takes the victims to the hospital. During those 30 minutes, you're going to hear as to where the path went. You're going to hear that law enforcement then searched that path again, looking for trace evidence, such as firearms. They didn't find it. But you're also going to hear that Jamel Demmons, on the side of the road, made a FaceTime video chat. At that point, he starts setting up the story. He FaceTimes his girlfriend at the time, Mariah Hamilton. Mariah Hamilton gets the phone call and screams, waking up her mother, Felicia Holmes. Felicia Holmes also sees the defendant, Jamel Demmons, on that FaceTime video call. And you're going to learn, ladies and gentlemen, that that's a data event on a cell phone. That it's not a call for the purposes of the cell phone companies. It's using data, accessing the internet. Felicia Holmes and Mariah Hamilton see Jamel Demmons outside, and he is saying he's just been involved in a drive-by, and he thinks Anthony Williams and Chris Thomas are dead. So what you're also going to find out is while Mr. Demmons is out there on the side of the road, 4 in the morning, 4:42 specifically, he sends a drop pin, digital homing beacon, to his current location to one of his friends, Frederick Gibbons. Frederick Gibbons is also involved in the music industry, and he asked to be picked up. Frederick Gibbons then, about 11 minutes later, is sent another drop pin where Mr. Demmons has moved a couple of meters. What you're going to find out as well, though, is these digital leashes, they have more than just phone calls, accessing the internet. They have health data. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to find and hear and be able to see the videos at the recording studio and see Mr. Demmons taking steps. Lo and behold, look at the health activity data, a pedometer, a step counter, that's what it is. 70 steps. Then you're going to see at 4:02 a.m. another 70 steps. Then at 4:42, the time frame in which he's sending that drop pin to 4:53 a.m., you're going to see 1,397 steps. You will see this data showing the defendant had the phone and was using it. So, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that I have to prove is the defendant committed the crime. And to do that, the state intends to show the evidence that the phone was there at the murder scene, and there were no other phones there. There is no one else out there at 4 in the morning. So to do that, the state has to convince each and every one of you that this was the phone of the defendant. You'll see in the messages and the contents of those messages him identifying himself. This is Melly, giving out that phone number to multiple people as being his phone number, 772-713-9807. And to further prove that, the state is going to show you the Instagram, the Facebook, the Snapchat, because contrary to popular belief, Snapchat doesn't disappear. And detectives were able to write a search warrant and get contents of Snapchat. And there are things that are there, and there are things that are not. And so, ladies and gentlemen, specifically, the Instagram, the defendant during the course of the months of October of 2018 through December of 2018 gives out his phone number 15 times. Says, this is me, and all during the same time frame of October 26th of 2018, he's giving out that phone number. So one of the other elements that you heard about initially was that this was committed by a criminal gang member in furtherance of a criminal gang. So what you will learn from the evidence, from the Instagram, from the private messages, was that Jamel Demons is a member of the G Shine Blood set. This is not a stage personality. This is not an actor that's playing a character. This was his real life. Ladies and gentlemen, you will see that as soon as October 24th, 2 days before the homicide, Jamel Demons is learning the oath of loyalty to the G Shine Blood set. You're going to see things in these messages that will be indicative of blood membership. For example, anytime a word would normally be spelled with a C, as in Charlie, they don't use that. They replace it with the letter B. So instead of saying, I'm at the crib, they say, I'm at the brib. Why, ladies and gentlemen? Because C is associated with cribs. B is for bloods.
I took two things that I love, dancing and dogs, and I made them into a successful business. Hi.
So if you look through all the messages, you will notice time and time again, Jamel Demons is dropping C's and using B's. And you're going to see pictures, you're going to see videos of the defendant doing something called staffing, which is a way to show a gang affiliation and to broadcast it to the world. And this is not just in music videos. This is not just in lyrics, because we're not going to get into that. That's artistic expression. That's not why we are here today. We are here because the defendant murdered 2 individuals. So in summary, the last thing I want to tell you that the evidence will show is that in the Instagram, because the defendant had a moderate social media following at the time of these events, people are reaching out to him. Some fans, some friends, some associates. You'll see on October 26th, after about 8 a.m. in the morning, Eastern time, multiple messages are coming in. Messages are coming in from individuals checking to see if he's okay, if he's been injured in this drive-by. If it's true that Anthony Williams, who's also sometimes referred to as Sack, and Chris Thomas, who is referred to as Juvie, are really dead. One individual, and specifically, sends out, and I want to quote the message exactly that you will hear, and says, right after this, yo, homie, you good? Let me know something. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this is where context matters. What does that mean? If you work at Google and you say, my whole floor is coding, that's a good thing. If you work at Broward General Hospital and you say, my whole floor is coding, that is a bad thing. The context around the messages matters. So in the context of this message, this individual is reaching out, asking if Mr. Demons is good, after he's been tagged in multiple social media posts about this drive-through, this shooting. And Mr. Demons responds very succinctly, "I did that." Shh. Ladies and gentlemen, at the conclusion of the evidence, the state is confident that you will find the defendant guilty as charged of the first-degree murder of Christopher Thomas and Anthony Williams. Thank you.
Counsel, thank you. Mr. Howard?
We have 5 minutes.
You recess? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short recess. Do not discuss the case. Don't form any opinion about the case. We're not going to discuss the case in the present. Certain no research. 15 members, 12 days on the chair. Thank you.
All right, so we basically just heard the state's argument now. We got to hear the defense. But I want to see the evidence because you can make it sound good all day. But babe, what that evidence said? Let me see the evidence. It's not me either, y'all. Something wrong with the audio. Something wrong with the audio.
Prosecutors are given great power, endless resources to perform their mission of pursuing justice. But that's not what occurred here. What they will bring you is a case that is riddled with reasonable doubt, that is founded on an incompetent and incomplete investigation, and the exercise of poor judgment at every turn. The state cannot prove beyond a reasonable doubt the allegations that they have made. And there is a reason for that. You recall Ms. Bradley, some of you may recall, during jury selection, going to great lengths to let you know that she does not have to prove motive. And she's right about that. The law doesn't require her to prove motive. But you know what does require motive? A young man to wake up one day and decide that he's going to kill 2 of his best friends. Best friends that he grew up with, best friends that he hangs out with, best friends who he lives with, best friends whose careers he was trying to launch alongside his own. They have no reason for why he would do this, because there is no reason. And if there's no reason, it doesn't make sense. And if after 4 years of investigation, the state comes and says, hey, he killed 2 of his friends, his best friends, and you're wondering why, and their answer is, oh, I don't know. That's the first indication that they're just guessing and don't know what they're talking about. And that, ladies and gentlemen, by itself is reasonable doubt. Why he would commit such a heinous crime against his own 2 best friends for no reason. What happened here is that the lead detective, Detective Moretti, saw a video of Mr. Demons getting into a car 40 plus minutes before bodies were found in that car. And then he discovered that Mr. Demons was a rising star. And from that point on, he decided he's the only person that could have committed this crime. Because if you're involved in prosecuting a star, you become a star. This was his big break. And he had tunnel vision. He zeroed in on this person, this young man, as the only possible perpetrator of that crime, to the exclusion of all other leads and evidence. There's a difference between cases that are investigated and cases that are fabricated. When a case is investigated, the state uses all its resources, its investigators, its experts, and all its energy to identify leads and run them to ground. When a case is fabricated, first a target is chosen. And then the state uses all its resources, its investigators, its experts, and its energy to run that target into the ground. That's what occurred here. And there's a reason why I say that. There are a number of leads that you will discover that were identified by the officers, but were either completely ignored or given short shrift. I'm going to let you know, run through a few of them by way of example. Start with the most obvious. Cortland Henry. Now, Ms. Bradley started her opening statement by describing some of the lies that he told, as though to impute them to Mr. Demons. Those were not Mr. Demons' lies, those were his lies. Cortland Henry shows up at Memorial Hospital, Miramar. You don't see him sitting there, but where you will see him sitting is in the driver's seat of a car with 2 dead bodies, car riddled with bullets. And when he shows up with a change of clothing, change of shirt, gunpowder residue on his hands, evidencing that he had discharged a firearm. And he lies. He lies about where the incident occurred. He lies about how it occurred. And he lies about not having a phone. I think it was Ms. Bradley herself who said, everybody has a phone in his pocket, not Cortland Henry. There were 3 phones in that car. There were 3 people in that car. So they take him at his word, despite suspicious circumstances, and they let him go on his way. They soon discover that he's lying about the location of this incident, and they went back to him, and they labeled him a victim. And they said, we know you're scared. Tell us what happened. He lies to them again. They let him go. And they know where he went. They know the location that he went. They know the house that he went to right after. And any investigator worth his salt would have thought to maybe execute a search warrant on that location to see if you find any bloody clothes, any DNA, any blood.
All I know is just live right now. Go ahead and tell your friends. Just as long as
A weapon, maybe? You guys are probably familiar with the series First 48. That's founded on the proposition that if you botch an investigation within the first 48 hours, you've pretty much botched it for good. It's 48 months plus later. They still haven't served a search warrant on that location. Why? Moretti already had his man. What's the point of an investigation? To find out what happened. He's using all his resources to try and prove what he has already concluded did happen. So, after Cortland Henry, lead number 2, a gentleman named Montrell Roll, and his sister, Nia Hewitt. Who were they? Well, another police department came into possession of jail calls between those two that occurred within 3 days after the murders, and discuss what they describe as intimate details of the murders. Intimate details means details that are not in the public domain. So 3 days after, these 2 people are discussing the details of a murder. They go out and interview Miss Hewitt. They don't interview Mr. Roll. And they ask her, well, how did you know all these intimate details? Oh, I heard it, something to the effect of I word on the street. Doesn't say when she heard it. Doesn't say who she heard it from. Case closed. They move on. That's lead number 2. That was ignored. Then there's Robert Colbert. Who is he? He is a gentleman that owns a social media account by the name of Backwards. This social media account, almost immediately, within days after these murders, posts this message: LOL, we killed 2 of your niggas. Oh, really? Took him 7 months to go and talk to Mr. Colbert, the owner of this account, that posts what amounts to an unequivocal confession to involvement in that murder, in those murders. 7 months. Why? Moretti already had his guy. And when they go and talk to Mr. Colburn, what does he say? He said, oh, I created that account and I sold it for $20 to somebody else. Who'd you sell it to? Oh, I can't remember. Were you at the murder scene? No. Did you do it? No. Case closed. That's it. No more investigation. It would occur to a reasonable person, let alone a seasoned investigator acting in good faith. Why would somebody buy an Instagram account when you can create one for free on your own? If not to hide your identity. And if somebody goes to the trouble of buying an Instagram account to hide their identity and then confesses to a murder that you're investigating, maybe you ought to go and figure out who that person is and talk to them. And maybe there is no such person. Maybe it was not sold. Why would somebody create an Instagram account and sell it for $20? And if he's in the business of doing that, that's of interest. And how would anybody know to go to him to buy an Instagram account? These are all unanswered questions. No investigation. Case closed. Let's move on. David Hedgepath. Who is he, you might wonder? He had a Twitter account called Crucial Almighty. He posts a confession to this murder. Something to the effect of, we coming at that Jeep. Can't remember the quote. You're going to hear about it. And essentially it was a confession to involvement in the murders. It took them 1.5 years to go and talk to him. They knew about it 1.5 years earlier. It took them 1.5 years to go and talk to him. Why do you do that unless you've already concluded that you know who committed the crime? You've already determined who your defendant will be. And when they go to this young man and ask him, well, actually before, this is 1.5 years before, they said, oh, we've determined that he was just trying to start an internet beef to advance his career. Who told him that? We're not talking to a soul. So it took them 1.5 years to go down there and track him down. And when they do go and track him down, they say, hey, did you commit the murder? No. Were you in the area? No. Where were you? Well, I could have been at work. At work where? Any one of 3 places. Okay, could you give me a work schedule? As though that would prove anything. He says, well, I can get it now. Oh, no, don't worry about it. Just email it to me. Really? And he doesn't even do that. There is no report that he even follows up and sends them an email of this mysterious work schedule proving that he wasn't at the location. They conclude, oh, he's not there, wasn't him, case closed. Is that how we do this now? That's not all. There are several other people who are potential suspects who were not tracked down. You are going to hear about them during the course of this trial. But beyond that, 3 years after arresting this young man and sticking him in a cell, the state looks at its case and says, oh man, this looks a little incompetent. Miramar police seems to have botched this investigation, and they call the Broward Sheriff's Office and ask them to come and look at the investigation upon which this entire prosecution rests. And he looks at it, and he says he instantly knew he had to start from scratch. I think his words were, it was the worst thing I had seen in my life. This is the Broward Sheriff's Office evaluating the work product of the Miramar Police Department. And we have problems with the Broward Sheriff's Office redo as well, but you're going to hear about that during the course of this trial. Ladies and gentlemen, the murder of anybody and the murder of these 2 young men is a tragedy. You're not here to solve a crime. That's their job, and they have watched it. Jurors often get confused as to their mission. You can't do a job unless you know what that job is. Every civil society needs to have a prosecutorial arm prosecuting crimes and offenses. That's a noble pursuit. There's nothing wrong with that. And every country does it. In some countries, the prosecutor decides who the person is, they send a cop to go arrest them, they throw them in jail, that's the end of it. We don't do that in this country. What we do is we ask, are you sure about what you're talking about? That's the purpose of this proceeding. You're not here to judge Mr. Demons. You're here to judge the sufficiency of the state's case. That is your assignment. You're not here for a show to see who you like more. There are two grades, beyond a reasonable doubt and not guilty. A+, everything else is an F. There's no A's, there's no A minuses. You are akin to an FDA lab. Imagine a company saying, we're going to put on the market fat-free milk. And the lab, their mission is to determine whether or not there is fat in the milk. And what do they look for? They don't look for milk. They look for fat. The state is telling you they have a state that is free of reasonable doubt. You're not here looking for proof. You're here looking for doubt. And if you're off looking for the wrong thing, you're going to miss what you are here to look for. They have no motive. Their entire case is hinged upon the technology of a phone they claim to have been in Mr. DeMond's possession. What they fail to tell you is that they come across evidence that Mr. DeMond got out of that car before this incident. They ignore that because it's not consistent with their theory. What they fail to tell you is that phone comes back to the name of somebody other than Jamal DeMond. What they forgot to tell you is that their own witness will tell you that, yes, that phone and Mr. Williams' phone and a number of other phones were all in the same account, and all of the people in the house used to use them interchangeably. But they're assigning it to him because that is consistent with their theory. They don't follow leads. They have no motive. Investigation was botched. Investigation, as a matter of fact, is still going on as we speak, up to a couple months ago. If they're here telling you they have proof beyond reasonable doubt, and what you're still investigating for. The job of the state is to prove it beyond, to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. And if you're a reasonable person and you have doubt, that's reasonable doubt. There's a song called Things That Make You Go, If you say, that's reasonable doubt. You do not. Ms. Bradley is charming. She's good at her job in some respects. But this is not a popularity contest. We don't give, hey, good effort. We don't give participation awards. This man's life is hanging in the balance. And if there is a scintilla of reasonable doubt, you must have the courage to speak up and say so. You're not here to judge him. You're here to judge the sufficiency of their case. They have a big task in front of them. We should probably get to it.
Mr. Howard, thank you.
All right there now. We just watched opening arguments for the Ynw Melly trial. This was the this is day one of his original trial, y'all. So we just watched the opening arguments. I honestly wasn't anticipating like doing trial watch, but I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But today I only had time for 2 hours. So I actually got to go back and do what everything else I'm supposed to do today. So we will pick back up our trial watch together. You're gonna be here into next year. We're gonna pick back up our trial watch this week. All right. I'm gonna edit the beginning of this video so we can fix the mistake of me mixing where Melly was sitting at. He was in he was on the driver back seat, not the driver's seat. So I definitely gotta go back and fix that. I might just put a disclaimer on the video so nobody gets confused. Shout out to Cooper Crew again for correcting us. And then we also started the trial, so people heard it anyway. So again, y'all, we're gonna finish watching this trial together from beginning. I think it's like 3 weeks long. It's like 21. I want to say not 21. It's probably like 15 days. So we'll watch it. We'll watch it. Tomorrow we are going to do closing argument. Yes. Tomorrow. Oh, what did I think? Okay. So starting off, let me just say, I think that the prosecution did a good job of laying out their theory. It sounds like they have a clear understanding of what they are trying to prove, as well as the evidence that's supporting it. So I'm curious to watch this trial go through because I want to see if the pieces that they're talking about come together. The thing about opening statements is that, it looks pretty, but when you cut the cake, like the layers got to stack, they got to look good too. Okay. The layers got to stack. You got to have just enough filling for everything to be good with it. So I am curious on how the prosecution puts this case together. The defense came in swinging. I feel like anytime, what really got me when he was talking, he kept pointing at the jury like, you, this is what you have to do. This is what you're supposed to do. And I think he was already starting to bring in a reasonable doubt, just bringing up names, people he wanted them to think about, and just possible alternative scenarios. So I think that the opening arguments from my perspective were good on both sides. They were really good on both sides. So they got straight to the point. So I am extremely, extremely excited to watch this unfold because again, y'all, I didn't watch it the first time. I just did research on it to give y'all a recap and so that we could just kind of pick up. But my people said we got to watch it. Telegang said we got to watch it together. So we're going to watch it together. It is what it is. And matter of fact, we'll probably be watching it while we do verdict watch because on YSL because we know that the verdict is gonna be wild. So tomorrow we're gonna do closing arguments for YSL. So make sure that you come back tomorrow. Come back tomorrow for YSL. I'm gonna stream. We're gonna watch it together. And then we'll just continue to. We'll continue to power through these different trials. I am also following. I got 4 minutes. I am also following Sean Steins versus Kentucky. He is the sheriff who unalived the judge in the chambers in Kentucky. I want to say a few days ago they indicted him. The grand jury indicted him. First degree murder. He's been locked up ever since the thumping. We're also following it. I'm also following that one. So y'all start seeing some content come through on that one as well. Do we know the jury split? The jury split on who? Okay. And then if there is like another trial that you want us to follow, we're also following Mr. Prada, Teron Thomas out of Louisiana. He's the TikTok star who's alleged to have unalived the therapist. We are also following him, but no updates have been provided on him as of yet. So we got things to do. We got things to do, things to look at. So if you like trial watching, you're in the right place. This last case on Melly, what was the last split? Okay, I'll find out. I didn't watch it, y'all. This is my first time actually watching it. I didn't watch it. I just I researched it. And I'm kind of salty there, and I'm real salty that I'm salty. But nevertheless, that's what we'll do. Stop by tomorrow and again do closing arguments with me for YSL. We got Max Sharp, we got Doug Weinstein, and we got the state. So the question was about the jury split, and there was 11-1, and somebody said 11-2. It came out with that Murder on My Mind song was made way before the murders. He wrote it in 2016 and the murders were in 2018. Yes, Miranda, but if you go to the end of the video it has like a blurb at the end that was like him and his friends was in a drive-by shooting. I was like, whoo. It had me kind of concerned, Miranda. I said, what's going on? Well, I said, what is really going on with this video? It made you kind of think. It made you think. It was a 9-3 guilty of manslaughter is what Malik Parker is saying. I don't know what the split was, so don't quote me. Don't go tell nobody I told you that because I don't know. We got to watch it and we'll research it and do whatever else we need to do together. All right, so my 2 hours are up, y'all. So again, thank y'all for tuning in with me. Oh, somebody getting in trouble, y'all. I gotta go. See y'all later.